Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. Hope when everyone out there is enjoying your holiday weekend. We're going to break down the details for you over the next 7 to 10 days so you can plan ahead and know what to expect. So let's take a look at the big picture this morning on the 500 millibar. You can see we've got a pretty massive heat dome really starting to build across a good part of the country. But underneath that, we did have kind of a weak disturbance that came in with some cooler air aloft. The atmosphere was able to overturn itself and produce some isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms in and around the DFW Metroplex this morning, and they could actually refire in the heat of the afternoon. While out to its west, we've got an even more significant trough that's diving in across a good part of California as well as in Nevada, well below average temperatures. But out ahead of it, we've got a pretty dominating ridge of high pressure that's another wave that's going to be shifting off from the southwest and actually going to be moving back over the southern plains by midweek with some record high temperatures. But before that happens, we've got some rain showers to contend with into the heat of the afternoon, later on this afternoon, in and around the North Texas region, while we're waiting for this trough to come in and move further off into the west. So you got some cooler temperatures to contend with and very warm temperatures out ahead of this pretty significant trough that's going to be moving across from west to east pretty much all week long. You can see the water vapor imagery, what we're talking about. There's the cooler pocket aloft under portions of North Texas that produce some isolated rain showers, but there's that dominating ridge. You've got the kind of another massive heat dome really starting to build. And then you got the northern periphery of that ridge. That's where most of the instability is going to be. So you've got rain showers highlighted over a good part of Nevada into portions of Oregon, as well as into Idaho, into Montana this morning, and that will continue to traverse across eastbound throughout the week. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel, and I would love to reach 200,000 followers by the end of the year, so you can help me get there by subscribing to the channel and following all my daily updates. So let's take a look at the Jetstream. So this is pretty significant, right? So out ahead of it, we've got plenty of heat, right? This is kind of relentless, is what we've been seeing almost all summer long, for a good part of the southern plains. And I think that trend continues with another significant heat dome really starting to build across the middle of the country. But there's the dip in the jet stream. So if you live in the northern periphery, the northwest periphery of that jet stream, you're going to be feeling some really nice and comfortable conditions. But look how far the jet stream goes. It actually heads up well into Canada. And that's why even places into Minneapolis and even in Wisconsin heat up well into the 90s. So we've got plenty of heat out ahead of that trough. So we've got 15, 20, almost over 20 degrees above average temperatures. And we've got some pretty, some records could unfold across this region with that heat dome really starting to build across that region. But we've got completely the opposite, right? So we've got, underneath that trough, there's, 10, 15, almost 20 degrees below average of much of the west and the Pacific Northwest. But underneath that, that's where the rain showers and all the instability is going to be. So for the next 48 hours, it's really going to be highlighted over across a good part of Nevada into Utah, portions of Wyoming, especially into Montana and Idaho. And then there's that pocket, a little bit of subtle energy across portions of North Texas, more instability across Louisiana and Arkansas, could lift as far north as southern portions of Missouri. And that would also impact portions of Florida, but much of the Ohio Valley, much of the Northeast will be under that really ridge of high pressure, at least for right now. But what's not under the ridge of high pressure, in fact, Mount Shasta just the other day had its first snow of the season. So I know this is 14,000 feet, but heading into meteorology fall, this is kind of a good sign of what, seeing the transitions of the season. So it's snow in some place, you just have to go up 14,000 feet, but that'll eventually lower as we get deeper into fall, and of course especially into winter. But before that, we've got some heat to contend with. So right, so here's your record high temperatures as we go into Tuesday. So we've got that another pretty significant heat dome really starting to build coming in out of the southwest. That will lift it up and over the southern plains, widespread triple digits across a good part of Texas again. That shifts into portions of Oklahoma. But look at the 90s all the way further north into Wisconsin, into Wyoming, Wisconsin, into Minnesota, up here into Michigan, even in the Northeast, right? So you got plenty of records, almost 42 records could unfold. That's just on Tuesday. But where you're not seeing records is underneath that trough, right? So you got pretty nice conditions that will be highlighted over a good part of Oregon and to portions of Washington, and that will slowly shift. So eventually those 90s will go away, but I think you're going to have to wait till Wednesday to do so. But underneath that, yeah, there's not much happening across a good part of the South where that ridge is. It's pretty much high and dry. So really the only instability in town is much of the Pacific Northwest and on the northern periphery of that ridge almost all week long. So there's the setup by Wednesday. There's another 594 DM high pressure. That's probably the last thing you want to see. If you live down to the South, you're just pretty much over the heat by then. But yes, we have another heat dome really starting to build across the same areas they've been contended with pretty much all summer long. So we've got more widespread triple digits and if not almost record high temperatures starting on Wednesday. More could unfold on Thursday, and even more could unfold on Friday. But what's this, guys? What's this little lower pressure up there by Nova Scotia? That is actually the remnants of Idalia still. It's still kind of hanging out. It's not a tropical entity. It's post-tropical, but it's still there, right? It's actually by Wednesday timeframe, it's going to be setting up shop pretty close to Nova Scotia. And, it's an extra tropical system, but they're going to be seeing some high-end wind impacts across that region. So even Idalia is not going to go away. It's still leaving a mark on even into portions up there in Nova Scotia. But out ahead of it, there's that trough. So finally, it's going to be replaced with some stronger thunderstorms during the day on Wednesday, with that trough coming in and that kind of another low pressure that's going to replace that with that heat dome. You're finally going to get some welcome relief with some much needed rain showers across this region and a good part of Minnesota. That will fishtail into Iowa here and eventually head into Wisconsin. If we look at the surface map, there's that low pressure, about 1,001 millibar, really highlighted across this region. And that will likely propagate into Wisconsin and across the Great Lakes as we head into your Thursday. There's the cooler pocket aloft. So further south, it's pretty much locked in. It's going to be relentless. There's that heat dome. You've got record high temperatures across a good part of the south, the lower portions of the lower 48, and then the northern portions. That's where you've got the cooler pocket aloft, and under that cooler pocket aloft, that's where the atmosphere could overturn and produce some showers and thunderstorms underneath these pieces of energy. So there's the setup by the time we head into Friday. There's a pocket of energy that will be highlighted over portions of Wisconsin. That will into northern portions of Illinois, getting into Indiana by then. But the ridge continues to be dominant for much of the end of the week going into the weekend. So further to the south, you've got the dominant ridge of high pressure across the southwest regions, across the southern plains, and the northern periphery. You're pretty much in that zone, right? You're in that zone of where the storms could fall because you're on the northern periphery, of that ridge. But out in the tropics, we do have some active systems. So we've got Gert that came back to life. We got Katia that that just formed. but those aren't going to be a threat. So this is a system that came off of Africa. It's about an 80% probability. Most model guidance has this pretty bullish. This is probably going to be taking the name Tropical Storm Lee, and most guidance actually rapidly intensifies this into even a hurricane, if not almost a major hurricane. There it is, within about a 7-day time frame, could be impacting the Leeward Islands. But if we extend the view, and if we go beyond the 7 days and go to about 10 days, most of the Euro ensembles has this rapidly intensifying, and we talked about it. If it is going to be able to get stronger, kind of like what a Franklin did, then likely it would be lifting further north and heading out to sea. And that looks like more and more members now are showing that possibility, as this is likely going to be rapidly intensifying. And then hopefully we'll still watch this system, but most ensemble guidances has this staying north of Puerto Rico and then eventually likely possibly heading out to sea. But this would be likely Lee in several days. So there's the map. There's the water precipitable map going into about 10-day time frame, showing the placement on the latest update on the European guidance has this further north of Puerto Rico. But yeah, it's pretty much dominant system. It was kind of like a Franklin, staying away from Bermuda. It really didn't impact anybody, but taking a lot of energy out of the atmosphere at the same time. So here's where your precipitation is going to be, and it's mainly going to be on the northern periphery of that ridge, right? So furthest to the south, you've got that little easterly wave complex that's impacting portions of North Texas this morning. You could have some heavier rains, maybe shift into Louisiana, Arkansas, but not as much. The main impact for the week ahead is going to be further north on the northern portions of the lower 48, mainly highlighted over Nevada, over Idaho, over a good part of Montana, back into Wyoming here, and especially into the Dakotas, shifting over into Minnesota, even into southern Canada, through the Great Lakes, and even in the Northeast will continue to be pretty much on the wetter side. After you get hit with that, these systems coming in, after you get hit with that, higher record heat that you're going to have to deal with for the first half of the week. But the second half of the week, you're going to get a little bit of a reprieve with some rain showers moving into your area. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch my next update where I protect you before and after the storm.